Chapter 18. Lecture in the College Hall, Monday, January 14th, 1895. Introduction, God is God, the Osteopath and Electrician, Diphtheria, Bright's Disease, an illustration, the Age of Osteopathy, the Children of Life and Death. Good morning. I am from Virginia, and shall introduce myself by saying, how are you? I am not very well myself, but in spite of that little drawback, will tell you for a short time. As I said, we'll talk to you for a short time. As I said, I'm from Virginia, but I came west at an early day and am practically a western man. My father was a minister, in one sense a missionary, and I've said prayers 1/2 mile long as the longest chapter in the Bible. Said those prayers as I walked between the plow handles, that a lapse of memory in that direction might not result in a strapping from my father. Those were the days of small things. My father's salary the first year was the munificent sum of $6. Think of it, ye beechers and talmages, with your costly tabernacles and your salaries rising high in the thousands. Our schools were of a crude Western nature, and one paper to a family was a big thing. While I was at school in Tennessee, the editor of the Holston Journal, a paper in which my father was interested, came to our house one evening bearing every appearance of a man physically tired out, and exclaimed, "Well, after laboring all day, we have succeeded in getting out 160 papers, 4 pages, 6 by 20 inches. Today, such is the rapidity with which our great printing presses operate, that with ease about 680,000 copies are struck off in a day. But so accustomed are we to the magnitude of the results obtained in this day, that we fail to appreciate the greatness of our age. Nothing looks large to us now. In the past, a spoonful of castor oil assumed enormous proportions. Today it does not, for it is seldom seen, and is in use only among the stupid. But I will not assail the medical doctors. Some of them have come and placed themselves among us, and when a man sweats in agony over a lost cause, even fears being kicked out of the lunatic asylum, it would be ungenerous to dwell on his defeat. But you and me, as far as the lunatic asylum is concerned, I would as soon go to a sausage mill as to one. Homeopathy has reduced the dose in drugs, and in the same ratio has allopathy found it possible to get along with less of these deadly articles. Every step that drops even 1 grain of drugs develops mind that sees more deity and less drugs. It has been said to me, if you should die now, your children would have much to be proud of. But I say, if I die now, put an extra shovel of dirt on my grave for the things I have failed to accomplish. But if I die in 18 months from now, cast off the added amount for the new discoveries I hope to make in this science by that time. This is an informal school taught at my request for your benefit. If you make one subject complete, it will take all your brains. This subject is Man, Know Thyself. If you do it in 5 years, you will do it better than I did in 35. Years ago, I dug one skeleton after another out of the sand heaps of the Indian burial grounds and studied them until I was familiar with the use and structure of every bone in the human system. From this, I went on to study the muscles, ligaments, tissues, arteries, etc. It has been my life work, and yet there are things for me to learn. You are admitted to the school now as an accommodation because we did not know that this building would be ready for occupancy at the promised time. You see, one little lie always calls for more to cover it up. Do not think your payment of $500 will make me happy. Such is not the case. I would far rather have a much-needed rest than all your money. But since you are here, I will teach you all I can. You will enter upon new fields of learning, and do not think for a moment that you are after 2 or 3 months of classwork you will be shoved into the operating rooms. That is a procedure in which I have been bitten. Before entering the operating rooms, you must make a grade of 90 on a scale of 100 in anatomy. To admit you there sooner would be to connive your ruin and make you marvelous, to send you out in the world to make money, to make you think that Solomon's head would be too small to fit your hat. Motion begins in the human fetus at about 4.5 months after, in the human fetus about 4.5 months after conception. Activity of the osteopath begins at about the same date. After 1 year in school, you will arrive at the stage where, without proper guidance, you are likely to take a hammer to a looking glass. At the end of 18 months, provided you have gone out into the world, you reach the point where you are anxious to see pap. In 2 years, you just learn that steam blows up, but do not know how to control it. It is a privilege for you to begin now, and not my desire. Take heed that you improve your present opportunity for gaining the bread of osteopathic knowledge from headquarters. You may be called on to dispense it in Europe, Asia, and other distant points of the globe. So to it that your supply is of the right kind. An osteopath asks no favors of drugs. If you go out to your patient accompanied by a physician and allow him to suggest various medicines, then you have disgraced your diploma. Either God is God, or he is not. Osteopathy is God's law, and whoever can improve on God's law is superior to God himself. Osteopathy opens your eyes to see and see clearly. It covers all phases of disease and is the law that keeps life in motion. As an electrician controls electric currents, so an osteopath controls life currents and revives the suspended forces. To turn on the blaze of an incandescent light, would you make a hypodermic injection into the wire? Would you give a dose of belladonna or apply cocaine? 1,000 times no, yet such a procedure would be no more ridiculous than pouring those things into man, who is but a machine. If you take the course wisely, study to understand bones, muscles, ligaments, nerves, blood supply, and everything pertaining to the human engine, and if your work be well done, you will have it under perfect control. You will find when diphtheria is raging and its victims dying at the rate of 114 per day, as was the case at Red Wing, where my son is located, that by playing along the lines of sensation, motion, and nutrition, if you do not play ignorantly, you will win the reward due your intelligence, and lose not a single case. You will also meet that terror to the ordinary physician, Bright's disease. Let me make an illustration along that line, by comparing the progressions in kidney disease to the different stages of milk. Place milk in a pan. It is simply milk, and represents the kidneys in natural working order. Leave the milk a little longer, until it is old, then it corresponds to diabetes. Leave it until it rots, and you have Bright's disease. Even here, you will not experience defeat. For, with your accurate knowledge of the human machinery, you will not only know, but meet all its requirements, and so it will be all along the line of surgery, obstetrics, and general diseases. If success does not attend your efforts, it is not the fault of this science, whose working is exact, but of yourself. You who make this your life work will go out into the world as representatives of the only exact method of healing. You will be recognized as graduates of a legally incorporated school and will never know the ridicula, the abloquoi, the contempt that was heaped on myself when I first tried to make known this beautiful truth. No preacher will pray for you as one possessed of a devil. No innocent children will fly from your presence in fear of one spoken of as a lunatic. No, your fate will not be my fate. For my untiring efforts place this science and its exponents upon a footing to command the respect and admiration of the world. Osteopathy today is a greater or less degree is the subject for discussion in all North America, in all English-speaking nations, in all nations that speak their own tongue as intelligent people. When Europe thinks she has discovered a new remedy for disease, say of the lungs, brain,